Today we're going to cover my version of an adjustable loop knot or hair hook. Basically, it allows you to adjust the hair to the size that you need for the number or size of boilie that you're using. Now, I use anywhere from size 20, 14, and 8 millimeter boilies. So I know I need at least about 4 centimeters of hair to adjust for those. Now, calculating for my knots and so on, I'm using a 10 point something baseline on my spool line. So I'm only going to use a 9 kilo leader material. Remember, always have your leader material at least a pound, a half to a pound more, 1 to 2 pounds. I'm flipping between my metric. 1 to 2 pounds or 0.5 to 1 kilo less than your main line. That is a requirement here in Germany. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to measure myself off 10 centimeters of material. Now, first we're going to make our knot. That will make it. First we're going to make our little hair knot. You can do these however that you like. My hands are bad. I have different ways of dealing with it. That's what happens. My hand. I tell it to quit doing it, but my hand's still doing it. That's why you see I use a lot of different stuff, and I try. All of these you can tie freehand in the field. However, I try to get all of my stuff done at home, including a couple of backups. So I'm going for a one-day fishing to a water, and you can have 2 rods at any given time. So I'm making 6 of these. That gives me 2 backups for each rod. Now that I have this is the loop that your boilie stock is going to go through. Now I'm going to measure off my 10 centimeters. You can use a little more, but you definitely do not want to use any less. And I set that to the side. Currently, I am using a barbless size 10 carp hook. These are semi-flattened. Gives them additional strength. This is winter time here. The fish are going to be really picky. The carp, especially in tench, will want to mouth it. So if you get too big of a hook, they'll feel that hook before it can be pulled in, and they'll just spit the whole thing and leave it. So in the winter, I use about a size 10 to a size 8. In the summer, I'll go all the way up to a 6 or a 4, because then they become more aggressive, and I don't want them to suck that hook too far back in their mouth. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run our main line. We're basically going to make a hairless, knotless knot. For those of you who do a lot of carp fishing, I want to run it from the bottom of the underside of the eye through the top of the eye. And then I'm going to make me a loop. And I'm going to do a basic knot, but I'm going to run this through 1. Excuse the hands. 2. Come on. And again, this depends on the thickness of your hairline and so on. at least 3 times. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me a nice little knot. And this will then make it more difficult for it to get pulled or come loose from the hook. See? And now once I do my wraps, this cannot pull through and come undone on me. The next part is going to depend upon the thickness of your leader line, the thickness of your hair. But I want to adjust that knot. You noticed I left some hanging over here. That's so I can get a hold to it. I want to adjust that knot to just about where I'm going to have 6 to 7 wraps around my hook shank. Then I'm going to take my hair and I'm going to lay that on top of that. Just like so. Now what I want to do, this hair does not go through the eyelet. The only thing going through the eyelet is the one leader line. And now wrapping around the shank, my leader line and the hair, I'm going to wrap this about 6 times. In this case, I have just enough to do 7. Then I'm going to bring it under, still in the same direction. I'm going to bring it under the end of the hook and under both of those lines. Okay? And pull it tight. And that's going to shank and tighten all those loops that I just made. Now at this point it becomes difficult with my hands to hold it. So I put it in my fly vise. Just adjusting my vise to the hook size. Now again, keeping this hairline straight, I'm going to wrap it around the shank, going back. I did the 7, I want to do this 5 to 6 times. And I want to pull that tight. Now with that tight, I'm going to do a half hitch knot. But here's the thing. I don't want to catch my hair in there. I want to have this back. The only thing I want this half hitch to go over is the eye of the hook. I want to go one, cinch that, one clockwise. I want to do another one counterclockwise. And I'm going to cinch that up to where it's at the top, or over the top of the hook eye. Now, I want my leader, because the mud that I'm in on this particular lake, the mud can get up to 30 centimeters deep. 25 to 30. So I want that bait to be able to lift above that. So I need to have my leader at least 30 centimeters long. But for my additional tie, because remember, I need to tie my line off to my swivel or whatever, I'm going to measure this out at 35. Now that that's measured off, going from the top of the hook, the top of the hook eye, down through the bottom, I need to pass this through. But this is a fairly thick leader material, and that is a fairly thin, small eyelet. So I'm going to, you've seen me use these on my rubber eggs. I'm going to use this, and I am going to go from the top to the bottom of my eye. Now I have a piece of very, very small, very thin material. The problem is I would rather use this, but this is so thin it could damage and cut the fish. And or this is a 25 kilo, and I don't want to be using a 25 on a 20-pound main spool line. So this I use for things like this, where I need something really, really thin but strong. And if I can get my hands to stop shaking, I'm just going to pull that back to the eye that way. Now using that, I can then pull my leader material back through. Again, I do not want to get this leader material wrapped around anything. I want it to cleanly go around and through the eye where it is not affecting my hair. And there you go. That's nice and clean. And then I can tie off my, put on my swivel or however that I want to tie that. Now my hair. What I want to do is grab this. And I know that my 20, 14, and 8 winds up to about 30 some odd millimeters. So I know I need at least 4 centimeters. So I'm going to take and now pull this through to where I have my 4 centimeters from the tip of my loop on the hair to my tie on the shank of the hook. From this then, I'm going to again make another basic loop, and I am going to tie myself a thick knot. Again, I'll run it through this loop, 3 or 4 times. If I can get my hands to cooperate. Now, I already know at the end of my hook eye to here, or from the back of this to here, I've got that. So what I want to do is try to get my knot as close to that eye as I reasonably can, leaving just a little bit there we go. Oh, for the day when I had hands that worked. This is what happens when you get old and broke. It's not so much the age anymore, it's the mileage. And believe me, I've got a lot of mileage on this chassis. I'm going to hang on to my hair, needle nose or forceps. I'm going to grab the other side and I'll pull that tight, just like that. Now this excess, I can trim off the excess from there. I can trim off my excess at the base of my knot here. And there you go. Here is my hair knot. I grab my front knot and I can pull that and adjust it to the length that I need. Then that can just flip around. It's not going to do anything. And or if I need it longer, I can grab the knot at the loop and pull it back to the size that I need. That way I can pull this all the way out. I can put my boilies on it, and then I can bring and adjust this to just exactly where I need for those boilies to set up with a little bit of lift space. And there you go, a adjustable hair rig. So basically everything's wrapped and done just like a knotless knot, but I put a knot on the end because I don't have my hair there to keep all of that in place. Did my wraps back, then my wraps forward, a single half hitch and a reversed half hitch. That just holds it in place. I don't have to put shrink wrap or anything on it. I measure my hair, tie off my knot, and there you go. And it works just that easy. Hope you find it useful.